Hey guys, what's up? I get a question slash comment from time to time about what do distributors even do? Why do we even need them? Why do they exist? And I think it's easy for us to kind of get buried in the weeds of magic and not really realize what a distribution network is, what it does, the value that it adds, and why we have them, and why we will continue to have them even for magic. And so we're kind of in this weird time period where it seems like WotC wants to go direct to consumer. It is via Secret Lair. It is to a small degree via Amazon dumps and just regularly selling on Amazon even when it isn't dumped. But people will sometimes say, why can't Amazon just sell all, or why can't WotC just sell all the product directly to the end buyer via Amazon, bypass distributors, bypass card stores, potentially sell for lower prices but still higher margins? It would seem like everybody wins except for the distributors and the retailers. Why not just cut them out and make everything better? So I'm going to explain why. I actually wrote some notes. So what does a distribution network do? And the first thing to realize is that distributors handle not just magic. They handle things like comic books and dolls and toys and games and board games and other card games and dice games and literally dice for games like D&D and D&D books and action figures. Did I already say that one? And so they handle hundreds of different products. But let's just kind of build a stupid, simple kind of model of the way distribution works with retail. So let's say you have 100 different manufacturers making all these kind of different products, all these different things that are kind of vaguely in this industry of collectibles and games and stuff like that. And then let's say that we have no distributors in this model. And so we have 100 retail stores, but they're not just card stores, you know. These products are bought by bookstores, game stores, toy stores, hobby shops, all kinds of different things. Even when you go into a place like GameStop, you know, GameStop has some Pokemon cards in the store. Some of them have Magic cards in the store. They get those through some type of distribution network. But we're just going to pretend that in this model, there's just these 100 manufacturers and there's these 100 retail stores. Now, how many relationships exist? Well, all 100 of these manufacturers has a relationship with all 100 of these retailers. And so there are 10,000 relationships that must be curated. And that may be so simple as just, hey, you have to somehow keep track of a name and a phone number. One way, either from the retailer up to the manufacturer, from the manufacturer down to the retailer, vice versa. But it's 10,000 relationships where you have to have some type of effort and input. And so it also means that when this one little local game store right here needs more Dragon Shield sleeves, it has to call Dragon Shield and it has to order the one case of sleeves that it needs, and that Dragon Shield has to mail that one case to that game store. And so you can see how this kind of setup without someone in the middle would be very inefficient. And so you would have this huge burden of a very complicated network with 10,000 connections, and your shipping efficiency would be very bad. So now imagine we take these same 100 manufacturers of game and collectible products and the same 100 different stores across all these different types of interests, and you put one distributor in between them. Okay, so now that one distributor, he has relationships with all 100 manufacturers, and he has relationships with all 100 retailers. So instead of 10,000 relationships, there are now only 200 relationships. And so the amount of effort put into the maintenance of that kind of social network in this business is much lower. In fact, it's only 2% of what it was before. And you also realize shipping efficiencies, because Dragon Shield can now, instead of taking one box of sleeves and sending them straight down to that card store, they will take a tractor trailer full of sleeves and penny sleeves and top loaders and team bags and comic book sleeve things and the little 5x7 sleeves you put those obnoxious oversized Pokemon cards into. They'll send the whole tractor trailer to the distributor. And so the shipping is much cheaper to the distributor. Now you have an extra leg of shipping from the distributor onto the retailers, but the retailer isn't going to just be ordering one case of sleeves. he's going to order those sleeves. He's going to order more Pokemon ETBs. He's going to order more Magic collector boxes. He's going to order comic books. He's going to order more board games, whatever else he needs for his store. More Squishmallows and more Funko Pops and everything else. And so he'll put together that huge order, and if it's large enough, it'll just go freight on a pallet to the game store. And it'll be a lot cheaper than sending all those things individually from all these different manufacturers to that game store. And so you realize these huge shipping efficiencies with a distribution network, with a distributor in the middle there. So that's why they exist, okay? But now the question, can WotC just go around that, essentially use Amazon as a distributor? Because of course Amazon has incredible shipping efficiencies. It already has a relationship network in so much as you and I and everyone watching this video are all customers of Amazon. And so can WotC do that? And yes, from the standpoint of relationship efficiency and shipping efficiency, it absolutely can. And it would work great. And we're already seeing it work great. We're seeing that WotC can just dump product below wholesale straight to Amazon, sell it straight to you and me, and man, we're happy because we get the product below wholesale price, and WotC is happy because they get super high margins and they can juice the financial numbers literally as easy as it is to click the button to change the price of the product on Amazon. And so we love it, and Amazon and WotC loves it. So Lego is a good way to kind of draw an analogous example of a company doing this. So the Lego company, it used to be that they had a distribution network. They worked with a lot of small toy stores, and they worked with the larger retailers like at the time, say Walmart, Kmart, places like that. At some point in the late 2000s, they decided to make their entire distribution network much more efficient. And so what they did is they essentially started to deal, in the US at least, mainly with just 5 retailers. It was Walmart, Target, Kohl's, Amazon, and formerly Toys R Us. And now they do have a distributor in the US that they will supply that will then deal with small toy stores, but what I read about that relationship and that distributor is it's not a very good way for small toy stores to get Lego. It's not very advantageous. Lego mostly just wants to sell to those now 4 large retailers because, again, those retailers already have those relationship and shipping efficiencies set up through their large retail operations. So Lego tries to do that, but Lego goes one step further. They own their own stores. So you have Lego stores, they have nearly 1,000 of them around the world, and those stores are wholly owned by Lego, and they sell Lego product directly to the end user. And so there is some precedence for companies trying to do this, for companies growing big enough and their product growing popular enough in the market with enough of a commanding presence in their industry that they say, we're going to eschew the entire traditional distribution model. We're going to go to this other model that cuts out most of the stuff and tries to increase margins by reducing the number of relationships and the number of pathways we have to satisfy to get our product into the end user's hands. So there is precedence here. Now, the problem for WotC doing this, yes, WotC gets the relationship efficiency, the shipping efficiency by selling through Amazon, but the real problem is new players come to Magic through local game stores. And to some degree, Magic is majority consumed as a game, as an actual experience at local game stores. And yeah, people play around their kitchen tables, they play with their kids, and they play with their family and their friends and stuff, but there's a large amount of play that happens at game stores. And when you have somebody come into a game store and maybe they've been away from TCGs for years, or maybe they're new to it, and they say, what game should I play? Well, it's very easy right now for the game store owner to say, oh yeah, play Magic. Here's a commander deck that costs more and more money over time, but here's a commander deck, you can buy this and you can go play. Or you can buy these 2 packs of Jumpstart, go play with those guys. And so it's easy to steer players towards Magic right now, but it may not always be easy. So if WotC decides we're just going to one day cut out the whole distribution network, cut out card stores, sell everything through Amazon, card stores have a vote on the issue. And their vote is, well, if we can't carry the product, then we can't steer new players, returning players towards the product. We'll host fewer events. They'll do other things that, because if WotC is not going to support the game store and is going to go around it in their distribution of the product, game stores have no reason to spend effort steering people towards Magic and allowing them to play it. And arguably, WotC is already really falling down on that anyway when Legend Story Studios has 10 or 12 or 15 pre-constructed blitz decks that sell for $10, $12, $15 right now. But pre-constructed commander decks for Magic sell for $30, $40, $50. So arguably, WotC's already really screwing up on that front, but local game stores could help them fail on it even harder if they feel that WotC is continuing to go further and further around the traditional distribution and retail model in order to capture higher margins and more profit themselves. So it cannot really go on forever, where on the Lego side, you play Lego in your house. People decide to either get into Lego for the first time or rekindle their old childhood love of Lego by typically going to a place like Target and seeing a big display of it and saying, I'm older and I have money now and I can just buy that and enjoy building it. So they buy it and they build it, and pretty soon they have an entire Lego city. So it's not that way with Magic. And WotC will eventually have a shrinking player base if they decide to go further and further and further down this direct through Amazon pathway of distribution. What I'm going to say next is maybe going to have a tough reaction for some people, but I think on the long timeline, WotC needs local game stores more than game stores need WotC. And let's just imagine a way out edge case. Let's say that WotC headquarters burned to the ground today and everyone who worked for the company died in the fire. And essentially, Magic ceased to be. All of the current physical product in the distribution and retail network would eventually sell through. There would be no more coming. And let's say no company stepped in to buy up the IP, even though, of course, that would happen because it's an incredibly valuable IP. But let's say it just didn't happen and Magic withered on the vine and went away. Would card stores cease to exist? No. Some would just continue to play Magic, but most of them would switch to other games. And we're really in kind of like a second golden age right now with games like MetaZoo and Flesh and Blood and, Pokemon. At least some people play Pokemon. And so we're kind of at a good time right now where people have other real good, solid choices of games that have longevity, that are going to be around for years, that are good to essentially invest your discretionary income into playing, into building decks with, into enjoying, into building a network around. And so in the long run, if WotC says, hey, we want to capture those high margins and sell more and more of our product through Amazon direct to customers, and game stores turn their back increasingly on Magic, it's WotC that loses in the long run, not the game stores. The game stores have alternatives. WotC would have trouble attracting a continuous stream of new players to replace their old ones, to replace the normal attrition of their player base, of people getting worn out of the game, moving on, occasionally dying, things like that. So that's what I have to say about that. The distribution system is not going away because it serves a lot of very important functions of efficiency. It helps out manufacturers, it helps out stores, and to the extent that WotC can go around it to capture some higher margins on some products some of the time, there really is an upper limit to how much they can do that before it starts to hurt them. Let me know what you think, guys. I see that question from time to time, and I think it's a good question to contemplate. And if you have a different take on it, or disagree with something, let me know. I appreciate it. Otherwise, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Join me on Final Trade. Join the Patreon.